Musk is known as the innovator of industries that you may not expect to be possible. Neuralink, for example, is a neurotechnology company that develops implantable nerve machine interfaces. Now, stay with us until the end to find out the truth about Neuralink being tested on humans. In today's video, let me share with you the latest news from Elon Musk's Neuralink, his futuristic brain implant company. Throughout the past few weeks, Elon has talked a lot about Neuralink and some of the applications he expects from the product to be able to do, or not be able to do, in his first decade or so of use. According to Elon, Neuralink will enable telepathic communication, cure brain diseases such as Parkinson's and ALS, and help people with spinal cord injuries. Further, it also holds the potential to merge human consciousness and artificial intelligence, allow us to control devices just by thinking. Now that we are getting closer and closer to the first clinical human trials for Neuralink, it is beginning to become clear what this brain-computer interface is capable of and what benefits it'll bring. So let's get into what 2022 holds for Neuralink. Elon Musk responded simply to the question of whether Neuralink would be conducting its first human trial by the end of the year when asked recently. This is good for Elon since it seems wherever he gives an abrupt reply, it means he's sure about what he's saying. Similarly, when asked about the Neuralink trials last year, Elon wrote that if things go well, we might be able to begin trials this year. These two responses have a significant difference between them. I'm not saying it's a scientific principle, just that it's noticeable. The company has also announced earlier this year that its clinical trials coordinator and director were looking for jobs. According to the job description for an executive director for Neuralink, the person will work closely with some of the most innovative doctors and engineers, as well as first-hand experience from clinical trial participants. As far as we know, Neuralink has conducted its surgical trials with monkeys and pigs. The 2020 demonstration from Neuralink featured a group of pigs that had all received Neuralink implants, and some of them were also undergoing a procedure to have them removed. Then, in 2021, we saw a monkey that was able to control video games without needing any input devices other than his brain, which were connected by 2 Neuralink implants. In terms of product development, human trials with Neuralink would undoubtedly be a giant step forward. Last year, Elon wrote that Neuralink was ensuring the safety of its implants and was in close contact with the Food and Drug Administration. Before Neuralink events, he has said that the company strives to meet FDA safety standards, not just to exceed them. Likewise, Tesla vehicles feature crash safety that exceeds all government standards. Further, Tesla vehicles have scored higher than every other car ever produced. Also, Elon and the team have been giving a little bit more thought as to what exactly Neuralink will be able to accomplish in its first phase implementation as we get closer to the human testing deadline. The fact that Elon is talking about using this technology for every possible crazy idea has made us keeping up a little bit difficult. Moreover, creating a digital backup of a human mind, allowing our consciousness to be combined with an artificial superintelligence and becoming ultra-enhanced cyborgs using the Neuralink would make language obsolete. During a live TED Talk interview, Elon has brought up a new idea that you might not have thought of before. For example, treating morbid obesity with Neuralink. This is also not something that you would expect to hear about. Nonetheless, it is a claim that appears to be backed up by some science. Also, several studies have already been conducted that involve brain implants and morbid obesity. It is believed that the implant transmitted frequent electrical pulses to the hypothalamus region of the brain, increasing appetite. Currently, there is no way of knowing whether that particular method will be effective, but it would likely be much less invasive than other surgical procedures that suppress appetite. Following up on the comment, Elon wrote that it is certainly physically possible to treat obesity through the brain. Throughout the post, Elon elaborated on how the brain and body are interconnected and worked on bridging the gap. A Neuralink in the motor and sensory cortex connecting broken links in the spinal cord and neck to a neural link in the Neuralink in the motor and sensory cortex connecting broken links in the spinal cord and neck to a neural link in the spinal cord, respectively, should theoretically be able to restore full body functionality, and we can expect some more practical implementations of Neuralink technology in the future. One Neuralink device can read the electrical signals in the brain and transmit them wirelessly to another Neuralink device implanted in a muscle group, which carries the signals to the muscles directly. Previously, brain implants and muscular implants have been used to treat this type of condition. Nevertheless, it's always involved a very cumbersome setup, with wires running through the patient's body into the brain and wires exiting the skull and entering a computer. A major advantage of Neuralink is that it can do so with wireless implants that are very small, so from the look of the patient, you'd never guess that they had a brain implant. According to Elon in a tweet on this topic, it is a combined problem of electronics, mechanics, and software engineering for the Neuralink device, which is comparable to a smartwatch, which is a surprisingly difficult task, plus the surgical robot, which is comparable to a machining center. This technology is more in keeping with an Apple Watch than any of other currently available brain-computer interfaces. It is only possible because of an autonomous robot that conducts a surgery. Human hands can't connect the electrodes that form the Neuralink with the cortex of your brain. As Elon mentioned when asked about Neuralink's ability to cure permanent tinnitus, he said that no one knows. In his response, Elon stated that it might happen in less than 5 years, as the current version of Neuralink is a semi-generalized device with about 1,000 electrodes, and tinnitus probably uses much fewer than that. Next, he stated that the future generation Neuralink will increase electrode count by a great deal. Therefore, we should set a more realistic expectations about what Neuralink can and cannot do. In the future, the device may be expanded to handle extremely complex issues. Today, however, these benefits are limited. Elon was recently asked how Neuralink will address the loss of memory in the human brain after a user lost a grandparent to Alzheimer's disease. He replied to say that while current generation Neuralink implants can help, advanced cases of Alzheimer's typically involve macrodegeneration of the brain. The Neuralink program should, however, theoretically be able to restore almost any function lost due to local brain damage, such as strokes or injuries, since those 1,000 electrodes can't reach all areas of the brain simultaneously. The electrodes in Neuralink cannot be used on a condition that affects the brain as a whole, but they can be targeted in an area of injury or damage, and that's how it can help in its short term. In early human trials, the focus will be on this. In his TED Talk, Elon said the emails they get from people wanting to participate in Neuralink's first human trials are heartbreaking. Elon talked more specifically about the timeline of Neuralink when he talked to Business Insider in March, saying that Neuralink is just a short term about solving brain injuries, spinal injuries, and similar injuries. Neuralink's products were therefore only useful for people who had lost use of their arms or legs, or had sustained some kind of traumatic brain injury. Elon's viewpoint here is more realistic than what we've seen in past interviews. During a recent episode of the Joe Rogan's podcast, Elon claimed that 5 years from now, language would be obsolete and everyone would communicate through Neuralink, a form of digital telepathy. Nonetheless, we are hopeful that as Elon's messaging becomes much more realistic, the closer we will be to a clinical test of the implant. Finally, the robot sewing machine that threads the electrodes into the cortex will be key to a safe and effective human trial. Elon compared the chip to a CNC machine because no matter how good the chip is, if the implant can't be performed reliably, then nothing will advance. The robot is supposed to come in after a round section of the head is removed and place tiny wires in a very specific section of the person's brain. To tap into the neural network of electric signals, only a few millimeters are required. It could all be done while the patient is awoken for 2 hours, with a local anesthetic numbing their head, and the patient would not have to be fully sedated. Also, it is a very fast and automated method to accomplish a very complex medical task, an afternoon procedure similar to laser eye surgery. In that context, whether the new version 2 of the Neuralink robot was close to inserting the chip as simply as LASIK. In response, Elon said getting there as the robot system is currently being tested on monkeys. And he says that technology is making progress towards being suitable for human trials. Also on Twitter, Elon said there is no need for machine learning, artificial intelligence, or neural networks just yet regarding Neuralink. Although he wrote them out as abbreviations, we are all familiar with the words from Tesla's self-driving program. Taking into account that Elon is an expert in AI, he probably has the best people in this department working for him at Tesla. Elon's expertise will allow him to build Neuralink successfully. So, what are your thoughts on this? Let us know in the comments below, and thank you for watching. If you would like to receive updates on Elon Musk and his companies, make sure you click the subscribe and bell button below.